Open the pod bay doors, please, pal.
All right.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Look at the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
A Movie Odyssey with Brad Patella and Gus Crowder.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Where are you with Paul Newman? Like, if you could, is he on the level, like, if you had to have sex with a man, it would be Paul Newman?
Yeah, for sure. I mean...
And what age of Paul Newman? Because basically for me, it's any age.
Well,
of consent.
82 for sure.
He was looking good.
How old was he there? Let me look real quick here.
He's born in 25.
Okay.
Do the math.
So that makes him, let's see, 57? Is that right? Did I do my math right?
I don't know.
He's 50, all right, 25.
I didn't get into animation to do fucking mathematics, buddy.
Yeah, 27 to 25 to 82. Yes. Yeah, he's hot. I mean, he was hot here. He was.
He went gray early.
Oh yeah, he looks great. I mean, he's elderly, but he's still smoking hot here, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he is just the charisma and charm that just spews from him, even as like a drunk piece of shit. I mean, he is like a horrible person. Obviously it's a redemption story and stuff, but like he is such a scumbag in this movie. And
yeah,
even then I'm like, this is the coolest dude ever. I want to be just like him. I want to be a drunk piece of shit, just like this guy.
So
but it's never going to happen. No one's going to be as cool of a drunk as Newman.
Color of Money, 86, Hudsucker Proxy,
Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks. That's just like early aughts, no?
Trying to find his. Well, yeah, I mean, but it's like at this point in his career, he's kind of picking and choosing. Was his last thing Cars? I really hope not.
When Sidney Lumet comes knocking, you fucking say a yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, he slowed down a bit in terms of like just feature films he was doing. Yeah, he worked through the 90s. Hudsucker Proxy, 94.
Nobody's Fool. That's one of my favorites.
Yep, 94, also 94. Cars, 2006. And in the short Mater and the Ghost Light with as Doc Hudson, and then he did a documentary. He did a Meerkats documentary in 2008, and that was his last credit. But yeah, he did stuff. He was Color of Money, Fat Man and Little Boy in 89.
That's a kind of forgotten one. It's good. He's good in that.
Yeah.
As far as Paul Newman movies go, I mean, you kind of go like, the further you go back, the hazier it gets. As far as like, I haven't really seen like, what's it called, that based on the play, like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof or whatever. I haven't seen those ones, but like starting at like HUD, which is incredible. Cool Hand Luke, obviously.
Cool Hand Luke, yeah. But he's got credits. Oh my! You go back to like the 50s and the 60s, and he's just working all the time. He's doing TV shows. He did a bunch of TV shows at first. Throughout the early 50s.
I would be remiss without talking about. So, my wife's step grandfather, who was basically her grandfather like her entire life, he grew up with Paul Newman. Paul Newman would drive his motorcycle and park it in George Hayes's fucking parking lot or driveway, and they would walk to school together.
Wow. Personal connection to Paul Newman.
Yeah. When I heard that,
legend.
I was drilling my grandfather with just like 1,000 questions.
Nice.
So basically like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like, I'm like 2 degrees away from Paul Newman. 2
degrees of Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably more than that. I don't know.
You never know.
I'm not sure. So, should we record an intro or something? We're talking about the movie. Hey, gang. My name's Brad Patello. Welcome back. I am joined, as again, by my good friend Gus Trouth. Today, we're discussing The Verdict, 1982 courtroom drama starring Paul Newman, directed by Sidney Lumet, who I gotta say, if you are like, say, under the age of 40 and you're not a cinephile like we are, this is probably the best director you've never heard of. His biography.
Yeah, it's insane.
He directed over 40 movies. 40 movies. Like, that is just an insane amount of feature films to direct. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights here. Failsafe. You mentioned 12 Angry Men, of course. Murder on the Orient Express, the 1974 version. The Wiz. I love The Wiz. Death Trap, The Verdict.
Dog Day Afternoon.
Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico. Yeah.
Those two especially, I think there's like such a naturalistic way those films are acted and shot.
Yeah, this one too.
Yes, I agree. I wrote that down a few times.
Oh, crap. Did I bring my notes? Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
I didn't bring my notes.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no. We're dead. You know what? I never look at them. Anyway, I think just the act of writing them down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was something I noticed is just between Paul Newman's acting and Sidney Lumet's directing, this movie just hits it out of the park. This movie's so well directed.
This might be, I think this is Paul Newman's best movie.
It's the best one I've seen. I haven't seen them all, but
I mean, I think he's awesome all the time. There's a few probably unwatchable Paul Newman movies. I know one from the 80s. I can't remember. It's something like him and his son or something. I tried to watch it because he's in it, but it's fucking impossible.
Well, there's cars as well.
But he is just knocks it out of the park. One of the things I wrote down was like just within the first like 5 minutes, how much is going on behind his eyes?
Oh yeah, where he's playing pinball. That whole setup to his character.
Oh, God.
Like, I don't know, maybe the first 10 minutes is all. It's really short.
Yeah.
Before we get into the meat of the story, he sets up the character, and between the cinematography and his acting, it's just, you understand everything you need to understand.
The photography of this movie is gorgeous. It's kind of like it's so dreary. Like everything's really run down, especially like his office and his apartment and the bar he attends. Mm-hmm. But it's like if you were to pause it, it's like instantly like a oil painting, like a classical oil painting. How it's lit and the depth of the shadows, how dark a dark can be. It looked like the blacks. There's such a range of black in this movie.
That was something I noticed too. Just the lighting is very harsh and stark and almost cold. I wonder if
very cold. But there's so much warmth with the yellows and the browns though, which is
it's a lot of red
funny.
Too.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of red carpeting and
the girl Laura, she has a red scarf on, kind of.
But kind of between the lighting and then the setting, it felt very cold to me. I think I wrote down color corrected blue ? I wasn't sure because it looks like some of it might have been just slightly bluish because there's a lot of sunlight and just he's using a lot of natural light and the lighting is very stark and harsh.
That's the thing is like I wrote down that there is such a natural kind of not trying thing for it being so like artistically driven and actually like extremely try hard. You know, but it doesn't feel that way when you're watching it. You you might not even think about it if you're just a common moviegoer, that how gorgeous this movie is.
It feels effortless. Like,
yes,
just the way they use the architecture. Every shot, I think, has some kind of
his office,
architectural detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his office where there's an arch out the window. There's several great shots, and the shots are held for a long time too.
Yes, there is really long, but there's the have you heard of the Spielberg oneer?
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, Sidney is just knocking those kind of where you almost forget that it was one shot. I had to go back a couple times because it'll start as a wide, become a medium, then it's a close up, then it's back to a wide. It's just like, the shot
genius
filmmaking.
The shot of Paul Newman where he's delivering the closing speech of the trial.
Yes.
So it starts in a wide, and it's like, it's got to be like 5
raining
minutes.
In. Yeah.
Yeah. It slowly pushes in. You don't even notice the camera move. It's so slow. But if you look at the focus, someone is changing the focus to the shot and keeping him in focus, because you can see the background characters getting fuzzier. So
yeah, the depth of field.
The director of photography, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Andrei Bartuak.
Yeah, I looked him up too. Yeah, it's his first movie. Wait, nope. Was it his first movie or was it the set design? It might have been the guy it's the guy who did the set design, the art department. It was his first production. His first. Yeah, movie.
Cinematographer dates back to 75, and he worked with Sidney Lumet a lot. He worked on Twins.
I love that movie. I would do that movie any day of the week.
So yeah, the way they're using architecture, it's either like his office or they're in a really old library. I wrote down Old City, Old Money.
Yeah.
Because, it's Boston. It's very much using the architecture of the city. When we're outside, we're seeing these urban landscapes. When we're inside, we're seeing highly detailed woodwork and lots of books. A lot of really stocked bookshelves in this movie.
Let's just talk furniture about that opening shot
where he's playing pinball.
It's just slowly pushing in on him as he's playing pinball. Washed up drunk Newman in a dive playing pinball with that font.
Yeah, I love the font.
Like, I am so fucking in. And like just how he's like kind of washing the beer around in his mouth and thinking, and the whole, who knows all the meaning behind all the cinematography and stuff, which I'm sure Lumet and his DP are discussing heavily, but it's just pushing further and further into Newman,
There's
the
a lot
whole
of that.
story. It's all about him.
Yeah. So this is a redemption story. Paul Newman, he's 57 here, we decided, right? We did the math.
Well, you did the math, and I decided to say yes because I'm not going to do that. God damn it.
He plays a lawyer, and he's an alcoholic. I think the alcoholism is the first thing we learn about him because, you start.
There's a great shot that is so fucking simple. It's so goddamn genius. It's a close-up of the paper. He's looking through the paper to find all the obituaries, and there's a donut and a shot. What does that mean? What does that give you? It's breakfast, and he's drinking.
I think that's the same shot where we see him having the shakes too, right?
Right. He can't pick it up. He has to reaches take a sip first.
Yeah, he reaches for the shot and he can't pick it up because his hand's shaking so bad. And then he leans over to take a sip out of it so he can pick it up.
Well, and
he's an ambulance chaser. That's the other thing you learn from that, because he spends the first 10 minutes of the movie going to funerals and giving out his business card.
Right. But this, what I was going to say is this movie it's showing you, it's not telling you.
Yes. What you're told and what you're shown, what you're left to infer. Some very interesting choices there. Another thing too is we don't really get a lot of detail about his backstory, like the thing he did. He was accused of jury tampering.
Right.
But it was sort of implied that maybe he was set up. We're not sure. They don't really tell us that. He had a big, fancy job. Yeah. He lost his job. His wife
lost his wife. Yeah.
And he started drinking, and he's just been in this miserable place for the last several years. We learned this in the first 10 minutes, and he's chasing ambulances. Jack Warden, who's like an old friend of his, gives him this case to try.
Well, I like that he doesn't give it to him. He's like, hey, don't you remember this case? I've been doing all the legwork. Like, you have a meeting with them. I like that it's not like you're being placed in the middle of the story and you're catching up.
Right. You're
not like, man, he's not like down and out. Like, I just need one big one to get me going. It's not that bullshit. It's like he just, oh yeah, he has this case, but he's a piece of shit and like is just trying to make easy money.
Yeah. So the case involves a woman who was basically medical malpractice lawsuit. This woman was giving birth. They gave her the wrong anesthetic and she went into a vegetative state and never came out. And the baby died. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Right.
The sister of the woman and her husband show up a few times.
Another big plot thing is the fact that the hospital is like connected to the
diocese.
Catholic. Yeah.
You get the, who is Edward Binns, classic actor. Edward Binns plays the bishop.
James Mason.
James Mason. Yeah. James Mason plays the defense attorney. I love the scene where he's like coaching the doctor. So good. Good performances.
This might have been the first movie that I saw that made me, when I think of like a courtroom setting and lawyers, it's sort of more of how Jack Warden and Paul are handling it. It's like 2 or 3 dudes doing legwork, not this entire giant team of lawyers strategizing and doing tons of research to take down anybody in their fucking path.
Well, that's what he's up against.
Yeah. I like that realization the first time I seeing this, but also how they handle that again. And when you're talking about architecture and the detail and the old money, that throne room they're basically in with the giant, like walk-in fireplace and the long table and, just James Mason is incredible. James Mason, Paul Newman, they best picture, best actor, best supporting actor.
Yeah, this was nominated for 5 awards. Didn't win
best
any.
Picture,
best director, best adapted screenplay.
Well, they had to go up against Gandhi.
Oh well.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you're kind of fucked. Yeah. That Gandhi has Oscar written all over it, and it's a great movie. So,
yeah, the screenwriting in this is pretty tight too. Guy's a playwright. Feels in a lot of places it does feel very much like kind of a stage play, like it could be a stage play.
Right. If it doesn't feel dated to me necessarily,
no, just the technology. I mean,
technology and some wardrobe or something, kind of.
Maybe not, I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
Not even particularly there. And it just feels old because the film quality and the look of it, but there's still something that's so the coverage, the angles.
It is.
It's very contemporary. and classic. You know, it's everything at once. It's so good.
Yeah, it feels like kind of classic Hollywood almost, like the emphasis on performance, where you'll just linger on a shot for 5-10 minutes, and you'll sit through a couple different conversations. Like when he's the night before the trial, he's starting to panic, and he's like calling a bunch of people trying to work something out. That's all one shot.
Yes.
And you see his blocking, you see his body language. Jack Warden's in the shot. You see his body language. There's great timing and chemistry between the two actors. Great blocking.
I wrote down, this is our first big boy movie. If that makes sense. This movie, this isn't like, I don't think your average viewer could maybe handle the pace of this movie then or now. Where, not to say it is slow. I don't think it's slow in a bad way, but like,
I think
it's paced. Pace. Yes, I agree.
But yeah, if you're used to just car chases and action fight scenes and
right, it is a mature pace.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were talking about the fact that a lot of the movies we've covered so far have been kind of obvious, but now they are awesome classic movies, but like, well, this one takes a little bit more,
right?
Well, yeah, you have to. Well, if you're an artist watching this movie, I don't see how you can't enjoy photography of it. If you're looking at this with an artist's eye.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
So if you like art, if you know anything about art, or you like art, or especially if you make art, you're going to watch this movie and you're going to be so enraptured by the photography, the set design, the lighting. Like you said, it looks like
doing
a classic
something. The lights are never blown out.
Yeah.
They're so white, but they're not, there's almost no like glow to them. The whites in this movie kind of blow my mind too. I don't even know how they did it.
Well, there's definitely some contrast between light and shadow. There's really dark shadows and really bright highlights.
Yeah. I guess something almost in the cinematography and direction, if you threw a Trent Reznor score over top of this, it kind of have like a David Fincher feel. It's tight. It's very tight. There's very little handheld.
Yeah.
A lot of like steady push-ins, like tracking shots.
Is there any handheld in this?
I don't know if there might be almost none.
I didn't notice any. It's all very classical photography, classical cinematography. And I think just the most brilliant shots in this film are the ones that are locked off. And then some of the decisions about when they're cutting too, like when to cut away from a conversation. It doesn't feel like the obvious place to cut away. You know, they'll be cutting away in the middle of a sentence, but it's like, we get it, you know? It's like,
yeah, I mean, even like the very end, when the jury's like, can we ask how much money and stuff?
Okay. Spoiler alert, he wins the case. He wins the case.
Well, I would say though, there isn't even he doesn't even get a win until like an hour and 55 minutes into this movie. I wrote it down.
So if we're going through the plot, I kind of had a question about him turning down the offer without talking to the client. Can you do that? Isn't that a pretty serious ethical violation? I wrote down, this seems very selfish. Like the diocese offers a bunch of money to make it go away, and he just flat out turns it down without talking to the client, because he works for the sister and her husband, right?
Right. But there's that, he goes to see the girl that's in the coma.
Well, yeah.
And he's taking Polaroids of her, and there's such a simple, great shot there where the Polaroids are developing in front of his eyes, and he is like also, it's like the fog is lifting from his drunken haze of self-involvement.
And you're hearing the breathing machine,
yeah,
whatever it's called.
and it's like his like a moment of clarity in a sense.
But he's doing it kind of for selfish reasons, I thought. His decision to take the case to trial seemed like it was kind of in it for himself.
See, that my wife and I watched this. She felt the same way. To me, it's like it's the first step to his redemption.
Well, yeah, it's a redemption arc, but they wanted to, the sister and the husband wanted out. They wanted to just take the money and get out of town.
Right, but he thinks that ultimately the best thing to do, the righteous thing to do, is to prove that these fuckers knew and fucked up and killed this, or not basically killed this girl.
Yeah. I mean, there is that element too, where,
that's how I see it.
Well, that's what I agree. I mean, see, this is the good thing about this movie is that you can read different things into it. What his motivation is.
I guess I could. My wife also had some hang-ups on like the like how the court case went down. That kind of stuff doesn't really bother me.
What problems did she have?
Well, first she was like, whoa, like you can't just bring in like this witness without like a surprise witness kind of thing. But they do kind of explain that.
I think you can do it if it's to directly refute.
Right.
Or what? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, but
I'm not either. There's nothing about the legality aspect of this movie that bothers me. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, there's some dealing going on, him going.
Well, they're both of them are being scummy.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but Newman is fighting quite an uphill battle.
He breaks into somebody's mail. He steals somebody's mail to get a phone number.
Yeah.
At one point, and he goes to the judge's house at night to ask for a continuance, and he's doing some pretty shady things, I think.
Now, but on the other hand,
the other guy is too, though.
Yeah, they plant Laura is a spy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask what your take on that was. What is she just feeding them information? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a plant. They know that he goes to that bar all the time.
What do they gain from it? Do
they know like ahead of time what he knows or what like his angle is of how he's going to come at the case.
Is it implied that they like paid off that one witness? Remember how he's like a star witness that disappears?
Oh, the doctor?
Yeah.
I think that the doctor, I might have missed that. I just thought the doctor was sort of like, he wants to do the right thing, but he's also like, fuck, I'm going on a vacation. Fuck this. Like he just forgot. Like because he's in the Caribbean.
Yeah. I guess I didn't understand what the defense team gained from planting Laura. It seems like, I mean, it's a good dramatic thing for his character arc, but did they really learn anything they didn't already know? Because don't they have to communicate like this is what we're doing, and they know what witnesses they're bringing, and the two team. Well, again, I'm not a legal expert, but seems like they have that's like kind of a right to know thing. Like if you're defending a case, you have the right to know what the prosecutor is doing.
Right. You're supposed to, like, each side has all the information kind of thing.
So do you think Laura was planted just to kind of distract him?
No, I think that she is, there's times where like he's like making moves and like, oh, I'm going to go to New York. And she's like, oh, I was supposed to be in New York too. Like, I'll see you there. But she's being like suspicious, like, because she wants to, it's her job to follow him, but she's also conflicted.
Yeah. So that's a plot point. He meets a woman and it turns out that she's been paid by the defense attorney to seduce him, kind of, and then get information.
Yeah, she's a mole.
That's a reveal, kind of like.
That's a great
2/3 of the way
shot.
Yeah, we see
the guy's
James
talking.
Mason. Yeah, and then the reveal of who he's talking to, and
that's like a wide panning shot that becomes a close up.
yeah, tight close up on her, right?
Real tight, yeah, because it's like follows his hand. The drink is that's the reveal. He's handing her the drink.
Yeah, there's a lot of like clever blocking like that with the camera, where like the camera will be looking at somebody through a window and then it backs up and they come through the door and then they go around and down the hall and the camera follows them. And
did you notice he never gets on an elevator?
No.
I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie a handful of times, and it was just something I noticed last night watching it. But the elevator, either he is waiting for the elevator and he ends up not getting on it, or the elevator is out of order, or something happens and like he never gets on an elevator.
Huh. I wonder if that's a.
And I thought maybe at
metaphor.
I couldn't put it together if it was or not.
Do you think eggs is a recurring motif in this movie?
That is
a bunch of shots of eggs. And I wondered if it had something to do with like the woman losing a child. If it was like he drinks an egg at one. Have you ever done that, by the way? Have you ever drank a beer with the raw egg in it?
a red eye.
Is that what it is?
Well, one of these days we're going to have to do Cocktail starring Tom Cruise. One of my favorite shitty movies.
Okay.
In that he is drinking a red eye, which is beer, an egg, and tomato juice.
Just a raw egg.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I have meant to. Jordan and I always talk about doing it.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should do it. They have eggs at the bar. At the bar he goes to, there's eggs just sitting out.
That is just. I think that's just an old alcoholic dive bar-y kind of thing. It's kind of like having popcorn at a bar.
Or peanuts.
Yes, it's like something that kind of helps sober people up.
Yeah, so they can drink more.
In the 70s and before, people are badasses and just downed straight fucking raw eggs.
Just break a damn egg into the beer and just drink it down. Well, there's a couple other shots of eggs too. It's
supposed to be like a hangover cure. A beer and an egg, I think.
I'll have to try that, I guess. The judge is eating eggs at one point, and then we see somebody else eating eggs. And I thought it came up often enough that I wrote it down. Like, is this, a metaphor for the woman losing her baby?
Yeah, I don't know. Man, I thought I wrote down, there is just this insane shot where, again, it's one of those long takes, and the camera kind of is wide, and it comes down over, like, if the camera is above Paul Newman's head and like comes down into a close up of him, and he's like maybe smoking a cigarette or something.
Is that when they're reading the verdict?
No, they're in an office or something. It's fucking incredible.
Okay, there is a shot like that when they read the verdict, which he seems genuinely surprised. So they take the case to trial. Paul Newman's character suffers a series of devastating setbacks.
Loses a star witness.
Star witness disappears. The judge won't grant a continuance.
A doctor, right? So they get another doctor.
Yeah, who's not
that actor is great.
The second doctor,
Dr. Thompson. He has a little exchange with James Mason, and James Mason is trying to like shit all over him. And he's like, I'm a doctor for 40 years.
Joe Seneca.
Yes.
Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, Silverado, the Blob remake. Ooh, I like him.
Yeah, he's great. I love that part. I love when I never once think he's in it for the money, which the defense is trying to make it look like he is there for the money because he is been in a lot of court cases.
Right.
As a specialist. Great side role. He kills it. Knocks it out of the park.
Yeah. So they go to trial, and he's up against this team of lawyers, and
it's a nice peek into how the justice system kind of actually works.
Yeah, and you get just enough of that. You get enough of that to kind of keep you interested in the just sort of day-to-day goings on of a trial and what is happening on both sides of the bench. And
but basically, the judge is such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I do like, though, the first time the judge is actually on Newman's side is when they bring in they finally find the nurse that was there that wrote on the slip, which is a big part of the whole thing as far as evidence goes. And
but he tells the jury to throw it out.
I know. Well, but the judge does end up telling them to throw it out. But there is a moment where she says something and the judge is like, holy shit. This is for real.
Yeah.
These doctors 100% fucked over this woman. And he knows it right there. And then that judge knows it. And some really good, stern looks from that doctor when he sees
when they bring in the surprise witness.
Yeah.
It's all over. I mean, she testifies that the doctor had made her change the form.
Right. From 1 hour to 9 hours.
Yeah. Cause you're not supposed to eat before you get anesthetic. And he didn't look at the form and he just did it. And he basically killed her. And he made her change the number later. And the evidence ends up getting thrown out, but the jury ends up, I guess they just didn't care. They just, maybe it was the judge letting that, I don't know. Do you think the judge let them hear it? If you listen to
Newman's closing argument, he is talking about the true meaning of justice and the power that they wield, which he talks about at the beginning. I think it's not necessarily too far in the beginning. He's talking to Laura about what the jury, how they've seen a lot of court cases, they've seen the movies and stuff, but when you're really sitting there and you can really judge, and the power that you wield, it's not just some statue or book or what he's saying. I think that is sort of his closing argument wins them over. He's like, that this is bullshit, basically.
Yeah, it was a great closing argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, during that scene, so it's the closing argument, they read the verdict. There are two extras in the courtroom who went on to be famous. Do you know who they were?
No.
One is Bruce Willis.
Shut the fuck up.
You see him. He's sitting in the background. He's uncredited, but it's clearly him. Oh. He's sitting behind Paul Newman when the verdict is read, and you see him react.
Yeah.
The other is Tobin Bell, the guy who would go on to play Jigsaw.
Oh.
Apparently it's his first role too.
He's in The Firm.
Yeah.
Paul Newman's eyes. No wonder I didn't see Bruce Willis. I'm just staring into those fucking blue eyes.
Baby blues.
He's never been better. There's the nuance he's pulling off.
Yeah, and it's also the directing. It's the fact that he's acting, plus it's the choices the director's making as far as, and the script too, what they're showing.
Did you see the Robert Ebert's little one sentence review for this?
No.
It was something like direction, acting, and script all come together in a rare, like a well-oiled rare machine or something like that.
Yeah, I would agree
Meaning
with
that,
that.
like just everything comes together in this movie.
Yeah. It's a great movie.
And, yeah. I couldn't recommend this movie more, especially for people who like cinephiles, like people who really, they're looking for that next thing that's going to like compel them and like turn them on into the movie realm.
Well, I was like, you mentioned this and I'm like, okay, sure. I'd only ever seen this once before.
Yeah.
And it was so long ago that I barely remember. I remembered the surprise witness and then the jury reading the verdict and asking for more money. Can we give more money than they asked for?
Yeah.
And then the judge is like, yeah, I guess. So I remember that. Then I watched it and I'm like, oh man, this movie's great. I love this movie.
Well, I'm glad that you're on the same page.
Yeah. It's,
I definitely came, I think I had like a, I had watched probably like on AMC Cool Hand Luke before with my dad. Just always loved Paul Newman for whatever reason, I mean, how could you not? Color of Money was on TV all the time. And I fucking love that movie.
yeah.
It's not good, I guess, if you like.
That was Coppola, wasn't it? Directed it?
No,
Or
that's
Scorsese?
it's Scorsese. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We'll have to come back to Paul.
Yeah. What's the,
3 weeks from now, we're going to do Color of Money.
I love the Hudsucker Proxy too.
Yeah, I've only seen that once, but yeah, he's great in that.
It's the Coen brothers and Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Like, how can you go wrong?
That movie gets like pushed aside hard too. I don't know why.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite Coen brothers. It's,
but yeah, so this was like then I started doing a deeper dive into Paul Newman. I saw HUD and
gotta watch HUD.
so on. Yeah, but I've seen this movie maybe this was the fourth time I had seen it, and it has a nice rewatchable quality to it because if you haven't seen it in a while, you kind of forget exactly how it all plays out. And he's just losing. I wrote down how many times can you hit rock bottom?
Yeah.
Because you're coming into him hitting rock bottom. And then he hits rock bottom whenever he gets kicked out of the one funeral.
Yeah.
And then he hits rock bottom whenever his the star witness gets kicked out and he's like going to the judge and pleading for like an extension.
And when he finds out the woman has been
he just gets crushed this whole movie.
Yeah.
And that end shot, let's talk about that end shot. In that end shot, it's the first time the girl is like completely in a drunk, just redialing Paul Newman's number. Paul Newman's in his office, in that amazing office. Fucking window.
I love that office.
And that grays in that office.
Beautiful old building, but very run down.
Yes. But he's not drinking and he's not picking up. He's not tempted to pick up the phone. He is a little tempted, but he decides not to. It's his like, finally he is like, maybe he's out of his rut of like, he's coming out of his alcoholism a little bit there.
Do you think it's implied he's going to stop drinking?
I think so. Because there is also, we talk about like reflections and mirrors and stuff. The reflection, he's sort of sitting up and he leans back and the reflection behind him, the lamp is like illuminating the back of his head in the window. Maybe that's some bullshit. Maybe it's like meant to, but whenever you're making, I think like some of my friends who love movies, when I kind of talk at this level, they're like, shut up, you know?
Well, I'm glad we're doing this podcast then.
Right. But like,
because I could never have a conversation with my wife about a movie that goes on for this long. She would do the same thing.
I think whenever you make anything at this level, even like when we're making like a shitty commercial, the amount of detail that we get into at More Frames is like extraordinary.
Well, there's nothing
Everything
accidental.
is figured out. Yes, there's nothing accidental.
There's nothing to chance in a movie, Well, even, more so with animation probably, but I don't know, a movie like
Not
this,
this,
I gotta
not this,
think.
not this movie. Yeah, it's not. This isn't fucking Judd Apatow.
Well, I'm just thinking it's just so well crafted that there's got to be no accidents here. Like the repeating,
right? Like you're talking about the blocking.
Yeah.
The blocking of the camera, or even when the camera's completely just on sticks and like not moving, the actors are like fully enveloping the canvas. It's incredible.
And obviously very carefully framed as well.
Yes.
So we're seeing lots of beautiful geometry.
I also like that he's not afraid to put the characters completely in shadow.
Yeah, that's true. The back of them's lit.
Yeah.
I like the one where, especially where he's, the scene I referenced earlier, there's a lot of like cool lighting tricks where he, when the conversation's not going well, he's on the phone with a bunch of people and the conversation's not going well. He kind of leans over and his face is all in shadow.
Yeah. When I think about this movie, I think gray, desaturated. Yeah. Cold.
Paul Newman's wearing pretty much nothing but black and white ever. I don't think he wears any color. You only see him.
He has a red tie at the end. It's not like a bright red tie, but it is a red tie.
Desaturated.
Yeah. I wrote down, I love it has a great divulgence of information for the plot. You're not learning everything all at once. It's just how it's kind of given to you is fantastic.
Yeah. It's interesting the choices they make for what to explicitly tell us and what they want to leave for us to infer is not like the obvious thing. It's not what you'd expect. There's not a lot of exposition in this movie. You're just left to pick things up. Cues from the body language and, you're not hearing both sides of every conversation and sometimes the conversations just get cut off. Like the characters will be talking and it just cuts to something else. It's like, all right, I guess they felt that was enough information. Yeah.
There's just all these little things too. Paul Newman, like at one point, he's looking through some papers or he's taking a call. He's looking through his mail and he puts his beer underneath his chin and holds it with his chin against his chest and is like to use both of his hands.
Oh.
That's just that kind of thing. Like holding as an animator.
I don't think I have enough of a chin. I have too much of a double chin for that to work.
You could look. Are you a courtroom drama guy?
Yeah.
When they're done good, God damn it. Like A Few Good Men.
Yeah. Or Anatomy of a Murder. When was the last time you saw one in the theater? Do they make them anymore or is it just Law and Order now?
Chicago 7 is the newest one I can think of. They make them all the time. I love this movie. God damn it. Paul Newman. He's just so cool. He plays such a great drunken dirtbag in this movie.
He gets told, you people are all the same. So like 2 or 3 different people say that to him. Also, I got this impression of Old Money, and that was kind of like about systems of power as like kind of an underlying thing. Like people see him as like kind of this bougie, you got sort of the sort of class divides in it, between like the lawyers and the doctors, and then the common folk, the wife and her husband and the nurses. And
yeah, I did write the sister's husband, that like crushing reality. When he like finds out that he took the case instead of settling, and they're like, what that family has gone through and that they were trying to leave. And they're, it's brutal.
It's a great little speech he gives him too. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, damn.
Also, it just raises the like stakes of like, holy fucking shit, Paul, you better don't
win
fuck
this.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone should see The Verdict from 1982. It's a really good movie. I was just thinking you just don't see a lot of movies like this where maybe you do and they're just elsewhere. I was trying to think about modern movies as being like big effects extravaganzas, but there's something to be said for just like script, direction, acting. Like those three things done well, it can be just as good as like a bunch of explosions and I don't know.
No, see, it's better. It's so much better.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you get this eye candy, like all these like, big effects movies that are basically eye candy. And
I do think that it's hard to get over that hurdle. Like, when as a teenager, like I loved Jackie Chan and John Woo. I knew that Jackie Chan movies fucking sucked. John Woo movies sucked too, but the action was so cool. I loved it so much.
What are you talking about? Like, Jackie Chan movies rule.
Yeah, no, but as like a plot, like I'm not watching Police Story for its fucking plot. I'm watching it as Jackie Chan. Yeah, exactly.
Jackie Chan does it well though. Like his action is well staged and it's funny. And...
Oh no, I agree on all of that. It's there. That can only take you so far. Once there's my dad kind of not made me, but he'd be like, hey, stay here and watch this. This is an amazing scene. So right there, I was like, I trusted him from other experiences with movies. And he would sit me down to watch like something in Lawrence of Arabia. And like, he wouldn't necessarily even tell me why it was good. He would just say, this is good. And then just my dad stopping and kind of saying, hey, fucking pay attention, you little piece of shit.
I have to do that with my kid.
Well, Brad, we're really good at ending podcasts. I'll tell you.
I know. We're just sort of going to trail off.